Hello Workstudy Supervisors, welcome to the third in our three-part series of trainings. Today we're going to be talking about Overearning Prevention, Evaluations, and Student Development. This program was originally done in person on October 27, 2017 and is applicable for the 2017-2018 academic year. Today, as discussed, we are going to be reviewing three big topics: overearnings, evaluation, and student development. Overearnings, we're going to take a detailed look into what they are, how they happen, and most importantly, how to prevent them. We're going to talk a little bit about evaluation, which is a new process for the Workstudy program, though not for the university. A little bit about how to accomplish that, some forms and tools that you can use. And we're going to spend some time talking about student development, how to empower your students to do more and help you more, and in the process helping them to gain the skills, networking, and abilities that they need to go out and get a great job after they finish with us here at UNC. We're going to start off by talking about overearning evaluation prevention, which those of you who've been to prior sessions may know affected somewhere between 11 and 12% of our students last year, so this is a really top-of-mind, hot-button issue. Let's talk a little bit about what an over-earning is to start out with, and to do that we have to talk about a bigger issue, which are over-awards. In short, an over-award occurs when a student receives more financial aid than they're allowed under federal regulatory limits. There's a few different ways this could happen, but for today's discussion we're really going to be focusing on over-earnings, which is the specific type of over-award that occurs in the Work-Study program. In short, a student has a set amount of financial aid they're allowed to earn through Work-Study, and if they work beyond that amount and earn excess dollars, that puts them into an over-earn. Unfortunately, any type of over-award actually will freeze a student's account and prevent them from receiving additional financial aid until the issue has been resolved. So we do take these very seriously in trying to keep them within federal regulations. Why is it important, you might ask? Why do we have to do this? Why can't we just let students work and pay them for every bit as much as we'd like to? The earnings for students are capped by federal, state, and UNC regulations. If we violate those, as you can see during point number 3, we can run into some audit findings, and we really don't want this. So we enlist you as the supervisor and the student as the worker to ensure that they stay within their limits and in compliance with these regulations. Now, a caveat I need to put out here is that repeat violations can be cause for removal from the program. We have not utilized that option frequently in the past, but in order to maintain program integrity and to ensure that the program continues to exist for future generations, we do have that option and can choose to employ it if we see repeat violations in this area. So the question then becomes, why do over-earnings happen? Laid out on the screen before you is a pretty typical pathway of earnings for a student. They start in August, they end in May, and normally through sometime in the spring, March, or April, they're fine. Their earnings don't exceed their award. And for some reason, right around the end of school, it seems like students walk into this over-award. And it begs the question, why does this happen? Is no one tracking it? Is someone asleep at the wheel? Are there problems with the system? And the answer to that question actually lies in the fact that our payroll system is not a real-time system. Here, let me show you. So this is a calendar of all the pay periods used by the Work-Study. It's on the university's bi-weekly payroll. And as you can see from these green dates, which are payrolls, payment made on October 27th, when this presentation was originally hosted, is not paying students for the preceding weeks. So it's not actually paying students for their work on October 14th through 27th. No. It's paying students for the third and fourth preceding week, September 29th through October 12th. Now, that introduces a slight time delay as students who aren't tracking that information and supervisors who don't know to look for that information may not be planning ahead. Here's a link to the schedule if you'd like to see this data. The result of that delayed payroll means that a student who may be on track through April can actually have started over-earning their awards in March, and as a result, even though the student stops earning when they believe they've met their full award eligibility, may actually start in an over-earning at that point, which continues through the end of the year. To that end, we are strongly suggesting that all supervisors and students track payroll earnings as they're entered into the TIM system, as the students earn them, rather than as they're reported. To that end, we have 4 different methods that we can talk about with you today. The first being a reactive, utilizing Federal Work-Study communications and reports generated by the Federal Work-Study team. If we go back and we look at our payroll period, again, for a payroll paid out on October 27th, we're looking at earnings for September 29th through October 12th. Now, when we compile the data for those payroll periods, which we've done here, you can see it's a lot of information to distill down, and if you don't know how to read through it, it's a lot of work. We don't want to make this process any more complicated for you than it has to be. So my team will actually go through and compile this information from a variety of sources. We'll take payroll data from accounting, the previous balances from our last reconciliation, and employment data from JobX and transform them into that workbook that you just saw. Using that, we'll evaluate each student's balance, and if the student is near their limit, over their limit, or has been over their limit in a previous period and isn't fixed, we'll send communications to both you and the student. We then ask that you as the supervisor create a PAT entry with your Human Resources Office or Shared Services Center and return the excess funding back through Connect Carolina to accounting, which will then feed into the next payroll data, resolving the issue and preventing any future problems. We do ask that you please make sure that the JobX system is updated with the most recent Workstudy supervisor so that we can be sure we're communicating this information to the right person in a timely fashion. If the information regarding the supervisor is out of date, we are effectively communicating to no one when we really want to be partnering with you to express this information. We've also started a new process this year in January where we'll be notifying all supervisors of the earning balances for every current student. That's going to look something a little bit like this. On December 15th, students are going to have their last eligible day of work for the fall semester. After this point, students will no longer be employed, meaning this is a great endpoint for us getting a fixed amount of earnings. Now that data is going to take 2 more payroll periods and will show up on January 19th, at which case we'll have a clear picture of how much all of those students have earned. It takes a little bit of time for us to gather that data into accounting and run reconciliation, but somewhere between January 22nd and January 26th, as early as we can get the information to you, we will send you the balance for every Workstudy student via email. Again, we have to have the correct information in JobX to know to whom to send this information, so please make sure that that information is up to date. And if you've had a transition in your department, let us know so that we can get the system corrected for you. Now we have other options besides being reactive, which we would encourage you to employ one of the following 3. You can use a pen and paper approach, which is simply writing down the amount that the student has earned in each period and their balance, and subtracting through to find the most recent information. Now this is time sensitive, it's time intensive, and it's easy to make a mistake using hand-based arithmetic. So instead, we'd encourage you to use one of the last 2 tools. Building your own spreadsheet is quite a valid option. This is one I put together in about 2 minutes in Excel. I put in a balance, I listed the payroll periods for the academic year, and as I put in each earnings for the payroll period, as you would gather out of Tim before submitting the record, you could see the student's remaining earnings. You can also use this information to plan ahead speculatively. However, rather than building your own spreadsheet, you can use the one that we've built for you. The tracking tool, or time record log, is already out on the JobX supervisor site, as you can see down at the bottom. It's one of a number of resources that we've built for you over the past year and put out in JobX. This is the same page you go to log into your account, so it should be familiar with most of you. Just look on the bottom, the left-hand side, to find this handy-dandy workbook. As you can see in the example we have listed for you, you simply put the student's workstudy allotment at the top in green, their hourly rate in blue, and our system will calculate the exact number of hours they have for the year. Then as the payroll periods roll through, you can put the amount the student has earned in each here, and it will automatically come up with the remaining balance. You can also utilize this tool to plan work hours in advance for the entire semester so that students know how much they need to be working across the remainder of the year in order to earn their full award. Now, a word to the wise, students typically are greatly intentioned when they do this, but they wind up running a little short due to finals, tests, being sick, and other drains on their time. As such, we do recommend having the students wrap up earlier in the year, and if they do finish off all their earnings in, say, March or April, you have the option of retaining that student and paying them through your department's resources, or you can simply end their employment at that time, leaving the student free with more hours during their finals to study and prepare. Now, all of this conversation up to this point has been based on the precedent that the student's work-study award amount doesn't change. And while that's true in most cases, there is the potential for a student to have an alteration to their financial aid award based on unknown information. I'm going to walk you through how that process might occur right now. A student has a couple of basic concepts that we'll utilize to set up their award. The first one, the cost of attendance, i.e. the price to go to school, minus the expected family contribution, i.e. what they can pay, results in need. This is the gap between the two. Put another way, what it costs to go to school minus what the family can pay is the amount of need that we can supply them with in terms of need-based financial aid. Now, that aid always has to be equal to or less than need because, as we previously mentioned, if you have more need-based aid than need, it results in an over-award. Work study is actually a form of need-based aid, and that's key to this process. So if the work study goes over the amount, again, we're into over-earnings, a type of over-award. Graphically depicted, here's a student who has a cost of attendance, a family contribution, and an amount of need. Now, let's look at what happens when an outside scholarship comes into the mix. All of a sudden, the student has a total amount of need-based aid in excess of their need, which places them in that aforementioned over-award status. That $1,500 winds up being in what I'm terming the over-award zone, which unfortunately means all of that money is frozen and we can't disperse anything to the student until we rectify it. In order to resolve this issue, the Financial Aid Office will make an accommodation and reduce the amount of work study by the amount of the outside scholarship. And we don't enjoy doing this, and we do request that students provide us timely notification of their scholarships so as to enact these changes before the student ever applies for a position. However, sometimes due to the nature of scholarships or nature of students, the timing just doesn't line up and we have to make these corrections in the middle of the year. In years past, notification has not been provided to supervisors about these issues, but we have resolved that starting in January of last year. Every Monday, we look at the awards that have been revised. We correlate that with the students who are currently in work study, and we send out a notification. The good news is that supervisors are absolutely not responsible for any over-earnings that happen as a result of these revisions before notification. However, if the student has an over-earning, we adjust the award, we notify you, and after that point the student exceeds their allotted earnings, you as the supervisor in your department are responsible for that excess funding, meaning that will require you to pay that funds back via a PAT entry. Again, this is a rather rare occurrence, but we do want you to have all the information about why this might occur while we're talking about these over-earning situations. That's all we have on over-earnings. We're now going to move to the topic of evaluations, which is a relatively new move for the work study program, but something that's being pushed at UNC and something that full-time staff and employees have been doing for a very, very long time. So let's take a look. An evaluation, in short, is a formal or informal time to sit down and discuss about an employee's behavior and performance over a given time frame. Most notably, it's a way for you as a supervisor to discuss with a student your expectations and whether or not the students have met those and ways to correct that for the future. Now, it's not an opportunity to judge the employee as a person. It's not meant to be a one-way conversation in which you inform the employee of events, especially not for the first time. And unfortunately, it's not a reason to bring up wage changes or position changes, although that can be part of the evaluation. Students who have done extremely well and are ready to move on to new and higher level positions can put in applications for new jobs for the spring semester or the following academic year, and you as a supervisor can approve them for those changes. However, I'd like to be very clear that a student who does well on an evaluation but remains in the same position is not eligible for an increase in title or wage. Now, what does an evaluation entail? Well, ideally, you start the semester by setting goals and expectations the student is trying to meet. You then check in with a student's progress on a regular basis and provide formal feedback during some set key times. Realistically, we know, especially for those of you with a lot of work study students, that can be rather difficult to achieve. So what we do expect is that every work study student and every supervisor do have a candid conversation about the student's performance, their expectations as a supervisor, your expectations as a supervisor regarding that student's performance, any discrepancies between the two, and ways to make those items align for the future. Now, you can do this on a number of time frames, but what we recommend is informally during the first 3 to 6 weeks after the student has adjusted to the position, at the midpoint of each semester, and then conduct a formal evaluation at the end of the semester using the form that we'll provide shortly. Now, if you do need resources, the UNC Human Resources Office has an entire performance management toolkit. For the most part, these are geared towards full-time employee evaluations, but they can be helpful to you in terms of looking at goals, expectations, and tools. In order to simplify the process and make it more applicable to the Workstudy program, we've actually put together an evaluation form for you to utilize that's much simpler. It's only 6 sections, and we have links to it here under the live evaluation form or the example evaluation form. Now, if you're viewing this on YouTube, you won't be able to click on these links, but they are available in the PowerPoint presentation, and they are listed on the Workstudy on-campus resources website at JobX. We'd also encourage you to examine the 360-degree review option, in which you evaluate the students and any other stakeholders in the process, like other Workstudy students, secondary supervisors, or clients, have the opportunity to evaluate the students as well. We'd also encourage you as supervisors to consider having a reciprocity evaluation in which the student provides you with their feedback on your performance. You'd be surprised at how often issues with student performances are actually issues with the bigger office. So this gives you an option to have the conversation, identify potential issues that are outside the student's control, and make rectifications so that the entire experience is better both for you as the supervisor and for the student. Graphically depicted instead of using words, this is what the 360-degree review looks like. You as the supervisor on the outside, as well as the student, would have evaluation completed by all relevant stakeholders and then share that information back and forth. We do recommend that if you're conducting this process, any outside stakeholders be allowed to review the student anonymously for the student's sake, and that all the evaluation in person be funneled through you. Time now to move on to student development, and this is a larger topic that, as we've spoken about in previous presentations, we are quite passionate about here on the Workstudy team. We are attempting to move our Workstudy program from a transactional, that's work for money program, to more of a transformational opportunity in which students are equipped with skills, experiences, and networks to help them take their current performance into a more professional realm, thus preparing them for the time when college ends and they have to find a job outside of the university. There's a number of different ways to do this, but the university values mentoring, as you can read in UNCHR's mentoring services page. Shortly defined, mentoring is a practice in which people come together to transfer or develop a specific skill set, and that practice can vary with the people participating in the process. Most commonly, it involves a supervisor who has a wealth of knowledge, sharing that with a student who is lacking in that specific knowledge or skill. But mentoring can be done between peers, or even upside down, with employees mentoring supervisors on certain skills. The point here is that we were encouraging you to utilize mentoring as a way to help share knowledge, resources, and skills between people who have them and people who need them. There's a lot of benefits to mentoring, the summation of which you can either read or use this takeaway. Mentoring leads to better, more qualified, more skillful employees who in turn can take on more and better projects. Those projects can free up additional time for you as the supervisor to pursue even higher level improvement opportunities, creating an upward spiral. Put simply, mentoring leads to better employees, which makes you a better supervisor with more opportunities for both parties to improve. We do have a few recommendations regarding mentoring. The first is offer, don't require. Some students may not be interested in mentoring either because they have it through other avenues or simply aren't interested in pursuing that option through you as a supervisor. Make it known that the student can participate if they choose to, but don't require that they have to do it. I'd also recommend setting out by identifying the goals and expectations of the mentoring relationship. Is this a way for you as the student, or they as the student, to become your protege, or is it simply an exchange of skills and resources in order to bring up one particular area of the employee skill set? Establish communication guidelines regarding the frequency and topic with which you'll be meeting with the student. Evaluate the areas that the student would like improvement in and needs them in, rather than spending your time mentoring on areas that aren't really necessary or beneficial for both parties. And provide feedback and evaluation regularly, at least every few weeks. Check in with the student and see how they're progressing in the areas with which you are working with them, and when possible, provide evaluations to see how they're doing in these progressions. We'd also ask that you review goal progress at set times, potentially through the evaluation system we've just talked about, or through a system that you and the mentee have set up and find mutually acceptable. Most importantly, we'd encourage you to be encouraging and have fun with the process. Sometimes students just need a little encouragement in order to go from where they're at to where they need to be. And sometimes you as supervisors can have a much bigger impact than you think. Have fun with the mentoring program and keep in mind that any additional services and resources that you're offering this student beyond your regular supervision duties are most welcome. If you're not interested in mentoring, there are different approaches. Mentoring is a very time-intensive relationship and it can draw a lot of resources. Alternatively, we can offer you the strategies of coaching, which is more an investment in identifying what the student needs to improve on and helping them plan out how to get there without the continual check-in on developing those skills and the evaluations on your end. Sort of a, this is what you need to do, here's how to do it, it's up to you to go make that happen. Or there's counseling, which is much more focused on the personal development side of the student and less about the skills. So this is more of a talking to the student as a person, helping to understand them and helping them understand things about themselves. Two aspects of the program that you can use, coaching or counseling, as an alternative to mentoring, depending on your personal bent and the student's receptivity towards each. There's a number of other ways to help develop your students beyond mentoring, coaching, and counseling. These are less time intensive than the other three approaches and can lead to some of the skills development and benefits in networking and professional development that we've seen through mentoring, coaching, and counseling. For example, there's a number of projects with which you can provide your student, researching on any topics, benchmarking how your competitors, peers, or others are performing the same task which you conduct in your office or lab for potential improvements. You can assess your current operations and your customers' level of satisfaction with them. They can develop new ways with which you can improve your office. They can actually develop an office or lab manual that dictates how everything in the position is done, which is great for handing for new students in succeeding years who may be new to the position and need training. Students also at this university have remarkable communication skills and can be tied into grant writing, bringing in additional funding, using marketing or recruitment materials to help publicize the position or the goal of the office, or setting up social media presences to help others know. You can also have projects that are repeatable or time series to gauge your performance as an office and see how that occurs over time, perhaps leading back to some of these other items like operational analysis and customer satisfaction. Or you can help the students assess the performance in the current office and set up new steps for jobs. Phrased another way, you might have a new project that requires some preparation before you could hire a new work-study student to assist you with that project. Current work-study students can help you take those steps and be ready to go on a new project for spring or the following academic year. Outside of projects, there's also a myriad of opportunities for skill development, including workshops, online webinars, and training videos, both of which are available with the university's relationship with lynda.com, an online training subscription offered through LinkedIn. There's a number of articles, manuals, and websites students can read through to obtain more knowledge about their position and the operations of your office. They can do peer training, working with other students who have different skill levels, and there's cross-training in which two students have different skills and help educate each other in them. There's also a number of developmental meetings that students could do, either through one-on-one interactions, working with your office, team, or lab as a whole. They could do job shadowing with other people in your department, helping to learn the relationships that your office has and how others participate. They can meet with your external stakeholders or even sit in on planning meetings, looking at the direction that you want to take your office. Again, these are just a few examples. There's a myriad of other ways that students can help develop their skills, their networking, and their opportunities in ways that are beneficial to both you as a supervisor and to the student. And we would really encourage you to program some of these into the positions as we move into a transformative experience with the work-study program rather than just a transactional one. Alright, time now for just a few work-study updates that we have for you. The first is that we have updated the JobX fields after a request that happened earlier the month in October. We now have, for each of the 7 days in the week, the option for work-study supervisors to put in the exact hours they're looking for students. In other words, if you just need a student for Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday afternoons, you can easily enter 12 to 5 in the Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday fields and have that information exceptionally clear to students. You can also pair this with a question on the application site for the students asking, are you available between 12 and 5 on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday? If you need help on how to write custom questions, please see the presentation from July as it will take you through that process in detail. We additionally are up and running for the spring semester. We are reviewing new submissions and allowing supervisors to create new postings for the spring. Please feel free to log into JobX and create those positions as often or as soon as you'd like. Please note that you cannot create new positions for fall or the academic year, which is fall and spring. Only positions are being accepted at this time. If you're creating a new spring-only position that mirrors the requirements in the postings of fall, please feel free to open your fall data in one window, your new spring posting in another, and just copy and paste that content over. I'm also very happy to announce that one of our new initiatives is taking off this fall semester. We are conducting site visits with our Workstudy supervisors and students. Now, I'd like to highlight first and foremost, this is not a disciplinary site visit. We are not taking information in order to regulate or punish anyone. This is a half-hour process in which myself and members of my team will come in and speak with you as the supervisor, your students, and gain an assessment of how we are doing as a work-study team, the resources that we've offered you, how things are progressing in terms of a lot of our new initiatives, and to take a lot of photos and ask questions. Now, we have three goals. The first is that we're trying to find the gaps between best practices and current operations. We know we've made a lot of changes this year, and we know that some supervisors haven't been able to employ all of those, or at least not as many as we'd like. So we'd like to find out which new initiatives are taking hold and which ones we need to go back and apply more marketing or make easier for you, or find ways in which we can make them less labor intensive. Secondly, we're helping to develop promotional materials for the Workstudy program to reach both future Workstudy students and potential donors. We found that recently a lot of Workstudy students think that the positions are limited to more mundane tasks when we're really doing a number of exciting ventures and there's a wide variety of positions being done. We'd like to go ahead and market this to those students so that they know exactly what the Workstudy program is and what opportunities are afforded to them. And we'd also like to reach out to potential donors for the potential to increase our funding and expand the Workstudy program. I know a lot of you have asked about expanding into summer, which is something we're hoping to do, but we simply don't have the funds right now. This is one of the materials that we're putting together in order to try and make that initiative happen so that we can offer you and the students an opportunity year-round. Third, and least importantly, but most personally important to me, is that we're trying to get a better bond between the Workstudy staff and the supervisors and students. A number of you have expressed interest in sitting down, talking, getting face-to-face, having us come out and see exactly what you're doing, and this is an opportunity to do that. So myself, Mr. Harper, and our Workstudy students with the Workstudy team will be coming around and speaking to you. Now, we're currently taking volunteers for November and December, so if you feel like you have a quality position that you'd like to show off, something that could help us with our three goals, we would love to hear from you. Simply email us at work-study@unc.edu, and we will get back to you as soon as possible to set up a time. We'll also be looking at some positions that we've identified as potentially great opportunities for reaching these three goals, and we'll reach out to you via email to try and set up an opportunity in the oncoming months, and of course we'll be continuing this program into spring. Our final update is that we are planning a new program initiative, which I'd like to inform you about now, which is we are doing a job career alignment and recruitment in conjunction with University Career Services. Our goal is to better align our current Workstudy position offerings with the students that jobs actually enter upon graduation, thus again going back to our more transformational program. We are currently performing a gap analysis between the jobs we offer and the jobs that students go into after graduation, and we're going to be reaching out to supervisors who are in those areas where we do have an underrepresentation about creating new positions and more higher impact positions. So bear with me as we're processing through that data, and you can expect to hear from my team in the early spring semester about these opportunities. Alright, that's it for today's presentation, although I do want to leave you with a question. What kind of training do you still need? Now, we've gone through a lot of topics through the June, July, and now October presentations, and we don't know which of those that students and supervisors really need to hear more about, or if there's something new that you'd like to learn about. We're going to be sending out a Qualtrics poll shortly, although you may have received it by the time this recording is posted, and we're going to ask you exactly what you as a supervisor think you could benefit from additional training in. If you wouldn't mind taking a few minutes, filling out that poll and letting me know, We'll be creating workshops potentially in November and December, but definitely in the spring semester based on your feedback. However, until we know what you need, we don't know what to plan for. So please take the 5 minutes it'll take to finish that survey, send us back the information. All right, supervisors, that's all I've got this time.